Lost in time, lost in space. I need to get to Boston. I'll tell you more at the end of this video, but I'm going to go talk to the Free Software Foundation at their annual convention, LibrePlanet 2023. This is about liberating us from computers we can't control, that we buy, and which feel like they're controlling our lives more than we're controlling them. More at the end of the video. Part 2. In the wake of the groundbreaking comparative anthropology of the august James Frazer and his popular book, The Golden Bough, Western culture at the beginning of the 20th century experienced a greatly heightened appetite for the occult. Theosophy, secret societies, tarot cards and divination, spirit channeling, revivals of Egyptology, all these things, they all went mainstream, feeding into the minds of the curious and credulous public. Feeding them what? Well, that's besides the point. McLuhan, as a respectable scholar of poetry and literature, English teacher at universities, he'd been ignoring all this, ignoring it like you or I would, not out of any particularly strong prejudice, just more like how, everyone must, by necessity, ignore most of the nonsense fads and garbage going on in pop culture around us every day. Hey, you seen this crazy new thing? No, get out of here. I don't care. I'm busy, right? He had a family. He was hard at work teaching literary criticism in his English class with all academic seriousness and rigor. He was also reading lots of literary magazines and writing angry letters trying to tear apart the people contributing. All lots of very interesting stuff. And then, these two distinct fields, popular occultism and literary theory, were revealed to him to be different ends of one and the same thing. And then he had to start his studies all over again. This revelation, which made him very, very angry, happened in the summer of 1952, according to the letters he began having with Eric Voegelin, the famed critic of Gnosticism. As McLuhan began looking for how the art theory he had already been naively studying for years actually fit into occult rituals and initiatory rites within the art world, he roughly divided the practices into two general approaches, or schools. These schools held some things in common. The Gnostics, which they both were, sought escape from the hell of the fallen world we live in. They both generally spoke of having, or being, true selves than they were in their body, in some sense that transcended their body, their being here and now, implicitly or explicitly. Maybe there was something older than, or lived longer than their one mortal life here today, their time on earth. McLuhan's faith as an adult Catholic convert, so he converted to Catholicism actually, put him well outside of these perspectives, like he was quite at home, all right? But he realized something very deep about popular culture and dualism in all this. So McLuhan interpreted two different strategies for escape from the fallen world, to the fallen soul, in each of these schools. These strategies guided the approaches towards poetic and artistic technique which the adherents in each school used. The Western Time School seemed to be looking throughout history for some timeless, transcendent beauty, wisdom, culture, to manifest and create an emulation of the higher plane of heaven, from which their souls fell, and to which they wished to return, the higher plane to which they naturally belonged, but were not presently a part of. It was aristocratic, elite, and sought to perfect aesthetics to capture universally known and felt emotional states. Snapshots of the ideal archetypes everyone can relate to, but how to live them properly at the highest level. The Eastern approach of the Space School, on the other hand, ultimately taught the falsity of the ego, of the self, sought the self's own annihilation. The ego, the Space School taught, only resisted one's melting into and merging with the still point at the center of the universe. Initiates into this spiritual path were exploring the spatial world of the present, seeking and running headlong into new sensations, new situations, constantly dying and being reborn through ever violent encounter with each new experience. Art in this style captured the subtle effects of such overwhelming mystical encounters with the unknown. Not the simple, arrested, primitive emotions of the time school, but countless complexities of proportion and analogy present in all the infinite possible situations in life until the self itself became extinct. So, again, the time school and its search for timeless beauty sought to escape the hoi polloi, the little people, by rising above them. Adherents sought to create for themselves, as individuals, an elite, private heaven, like that from which their souls had fallen. The space schools ran into life, ran into darkness, and sought to break free from the bonds of, lame, normal social commitment to material attachments and the lies and manipulations of power, man. They wanted to be free from both the self, the illusions of the self, and, the world, man. Time and space. Now, the situation is obviously far more complicated than that. Vogelin even tells McLuhan so, but because McLuhan's using his art theory, what he knows to see through this, this is the dichotomy that he initially in the early 50s falls upon. I'm elucidating some aspects of this theory, simplifying them, of course, to lead to this point. The painter and writer Wyndham Lewis was contemporary with and colleague to his fellow English modernists, T.S. Eliot, James Joyce, and Ezra Pound. Lewis's approach, McLuhan said, was a strange, hyper-individualist hybrid approach of both time and space schools. Lewis was diametrically opposed to the fluxing, ever-changing view of reality taught by the French scholar, metaphysician, and public lecturer Henri Bergson. Lewis believed in the importance of stasis and stillness against Berson's ever-fluxing, ever-dynamic universe, which got very popular after Einstein and the theory of relativity and quantum theory and all these things sort of broke apart Newtonian space. If you read a biography of Lewis, you'll actually realize that Lewis was a real asshole. Like an anti-hero if you want to be all polite, but Lewis basically exploited everyone who was ever foolish enough to become his friend, exploited them either for money or as the subject of his cruel satire and mockery in one of his novels or pamphlets. Lewis got blacklisted everywhere and sued for defamation many, many times. Lewis's literary journal, written to lambast and attack the mainstream of English literary culture in the 1920s, was called The Enemy. Lewis was the enemy of every establishment. Wyndham Lewis thought that people searching through time for enduring ideals of beauty and humanity became romantic, dream-stricken, hallucinating, out-of-touch snobs at best. And he thought people who ran and melted into space, surrendering their ego to the environment at large, to culture at large, extinguishing themselves. These people became helpless puppets of the ideologies propagated from above by the time snobs. Art for Lewis had to become environmental, spatial, in the present. When nature was our environment, art had taken on and taken over aspects of nature. With industrialism and factories and modern technology, as nature became replaced by machines in our day-to-day world, the nature which art captured and controlled had to become more machine-like. Doing this, the artist could see how people were becoming machine-like in return, taking on the nature of machines. Lewis's approach to training his own sensibility, it was a game of chicken. He got as close to the flux of things, the environment, the world, the people in it, as he possibly could. He got in there without losing himself. He always maintained his individuality by always pulling out at the last second, betraying all those who he had gotten close to and won the trust of, and then savagely vivisecting them, tearing them apart in paint and in print. He had all the elitism of the time school, and the immersion in the world as it is of the space school. It takes an asshole like Lewis to spend his life innovating such an approach. And a Christian like McLuhan to study him, to become his friend himself, knowing what he's getting into. Like McLuhan befriended Wyndham Lewis, lent him money. McLuhan lent Wyndham Lewis his mom's money. He asked his mom to lend him. Okay. It takes a Christian like McLuhan to abstract good technique from Lewis and use it with good intention, humanity, grace, kindliness. For how he did this, you can meditate for now on the phrase, being in the world, but not of it. You'll find that phrase on the first page of Jacques Ellul's book, The Meaning of the Kingdom. Anyway. Lewis always observed the changes in the eternal now, as they differentiated from last years, last decades, last centuries. Eternal now. He mixed time and space in his vorticist school. That's what Lewis was, a vorticist. The way Lewis explains it, okay, there are two ways to lead a person to see their society as it is from the outside. To see it how an alien would see it. To pull the fish out of water, show it what its world is made of. There's two ways to do it. The more common one, the one that everyone does, is to create some make-believe fantasy world, such as Gulliver's Travels, or today, all of science fiction and fantasy, all these genres. Right? They create these fantasy worlds totally unlike and strange and interesting to our own, and then incorporate some aspects of our own reality into them. And then you recognize you're watching this sci-fi, right? Whoa, they're just like us, the more things change, right? That's the common approach. Everyone does that. That wasn't Lewis's approach. What Lewis did, which then McLuhan did, is to get as close as possible into the world of the audience, to represent the world the audience itself lives in, their environment, them in it, to see them, to get in there, do research, be in the world, and then create art which shows them their world, their mundane day-to-day world back at them as you see it, which is from a very different alien perspective, because you yourself do not belong there, and your perspective on it is new and fresh, but you're representing their world in a way they have never seen it before. Let's think of it like a David Lynch movie. Most of David Lynch's films, they take place in the day-to-day world of late 20th century America, right? It's regular people and living in regular houses and regular society, his films. But he shows us our world in a way that we seldom acknowledge. We refuse to look at. We cannot talk about. We don't have words to say, right? That was Lewis's approach. So, consideration of all these approaches to reality, either escape from reality up, or observance and melting into, or the fashioning of realities, all these art approaches which had been used for occult ritualistic means, they inform McLuhan's strategy for counteracting the influences and the vulnerabilities of the mind-body split, which they exploited. The next episode will be titled Embodiment. And we're going to look at McLuhan's approaches and strategies for understanding and handling this mind-body split. What he did to restore embodiment. Those videos will be coming up very soon with your help and support. If you'd like to see the next video, if you'd like to see where this is going, please help me fund my trip to Boston to the Free Software Foundation's annual conference, Libra Planet 2023. You can go to fsf.org to learn more about the Free Software Foundation. I'm going to be talking about the long history of data collection since before and after computers, to elucidate the history of the environment, the media studies. I'm going to be going in a few weeks. The conference is on March 18th and 19th. If you help me out monetarily, please do so. You can go to concernednetizen.com or look in the description below for more on how to do that. Greatly appreciated. And we will see you in episode 3, Embodiment, very soon.